Well, good evening. Again, here I am standing and talking, this time because I was working into the dark to collect pumpkins for our pigs, and they're quite happy. But they leave me to talk to you from my home office about the goings on today. I can tell you that the temperature in the room is very comfortable, and you won't hear any gravel moving while I talk. There are a bunch of things to talk about today. One is the railroad strike, which is an effort by the Congress to impose upon labor what Congress thinks should happen because that's what the railroad wants. And in the bargain, the one condition that might have made everybody happy was for labor to get paid for those sick days. And they entered a separate bill to do that. So they passed the bill that gave them what they were willing to give them. That is what the company was willing to give them, what Biden was willing to give them, what Congress was willing to give them. And the other bill for paid sick leave, didn't pass. But Biden said he's going to continue to work for it. But let me add this point. Who's he going to work for it with? The Republicans were against it now. When they take over the Congress and the House, it's dead. It's not going to happen. So we have failed labor. And you have to ask yourself, will the representatives of labor, the 12 unions or the 4 joined by the others, will they strike anyhow? And what will we do if they do that? I don't know. But it's similar and different, maybe less egregious than what Reagan did with the PATCO, the air traffic controller strike, which was about safety. That is, that the system that the air traffic controllers used wasn't safe. And if they had worked to a rule, meaning worked specifically, calculatingly, they would have slowed down their effort, and it wouldn't have been a strike. Since they were federal employees, they couldn't strike, and when they did, they were fired. So here we have a situation in which Biden gets the bill he wanted that labor did not want because it didn't have the specific protections for being paid for sick days. And he supposedly met with labor later today, and I sure wish I was in that room. I don't know if it was a public proceeding, but that would be something to watch out for. It's, you know, it's a capitalistic system, but this shows that when we pass collective bargaining, which is a modification of that system to make it fair so that the workers who are productive get to share in the profit, and that's out the window. So I'm very upset about that, and I'm sure a lot of labor leaders are, and I'm sure a lot of people who care the working men and women, and certainly the working men and women who work these very difficult jobs, which are somewhat unsafe given the congestion of people on these transports. That is to say, these are rail transports, but still. Now, we have perhaps a drought of ideas about how to handle labor, but we also have to deal with a real drought. For those who don't believe in global warming and don't think it's having any effect, a really good example is out at Lake Powell. There's a Glen Canyon project there that supplies the electricity for the area, and it's 710 feet high, but the water levels have dropped, and because of that drop, it's in danger of having to shut it down. What does that mean? It means lost electricity to 4.5 million people. So when we have a drought of ideas to anticipate the effect of global warming that some people think is a fantasy, we get into these situations where we put people in peril. So here we have peril because we don't obey the collective bargaining principles. We interfere, and we choose a side, and we do it on behalf of the railway, not on behalf of the working men. And here we've allowed time to pass, and so there's a real question whether we can catch up and save those people from the canyon failing. That's really something. While we're at it, in terms of failure, this is becoming more depressing than I thought, but I'm very concerned about a country that's always talking about how we do things for the children and then really don't do things for the children. Guns is a principal example, education, health is another. And in the category of health, what we're finding is many children are having respiratory illnesses. And the question is, what do we give them? And there's apparently a shortage of meds for the children for these respiratory illnesses. We give lip service to so many things, and in this case I'm talking about children, and then we don't carry through. We don't do it. What is wrong with us? Now, what good news do I have? There's a couple of things that I like. One is that Judge Luce Cannon, her real name is Cannon, down in Florida, was taken to town by the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. And it's Trump appointees against her as a Trump appointee, and they saying she never had any business appointing a special master, and what did she think she was doing? And she was interfering with the investigation, and this case is over. That's what they said. Now, the other interesting thing about this is, why did it take so long to do this even for the 11th Circuit? Why didn't that happen on the first pass through the court? And because we couldn't wrap our minds around a final resolution, and the only reason that we have as quick a resolution as this is, as delayed as it is because the Justice Department actually pushed it into the court. So that's a very helpful thing, and that's a very encouraging thing. So what do we have? Well, Trump managed to delay it, but we all knew about it, and it may have had whatever adverse effect it did in the election. And it has delayed the investigation, but I don't know that it's been hurt. But we can presume that there will be an appeal from the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals to the Supreme Court, hoping that they convince the Supreme Court to put a round peg in a square hole. And given how Trump has failed in his past visitations to the Supreme Court that he built, I think is highly likely, 98.27%, that he's going to fail in the Supreme Court. Another thing that's enjoyable is a long-fought effort to get to the Congress the tax returns of Trump by demanding it from the agency. And that has happened. Now, when will we see it? I don't know, but if I was the chair of that committee, they'd be out as soon as possible. It's certainly, if you're going to do anything with it, you better do it before the next Congress, because you can be sure that the Republicans are going to sit on this in the House if they have to deliberate upon whether and if and when they release it. So what do we have going on in America? Well, we see day by day some of our failures. We're not there. We're not on top of it. We're not doing what we need to do. We're doing catch-up. Even as I speak to you, the Congress has to figure out a spending bill to keep the government open and they have to do this by December the 15th. How are they going to decide to do that? Well, the Republicans are going to be very interested to have money in that bill that takes care of Florida. And they're going to be upset about other things in the bill that is the Republicans are, things that the Democrats want and need. And the Democrats do believe that we should give money and aid to Florida, given the terrible weather that went on down there that destroyed so many businesses and cost us some lives. So America, you would think if they would just somehow relax and approach each problem based on the facts and on the law and on the need, and stop talking ideology and making things ideological, which are really just how do you help someone. You may know, because I think I've mentioned it before, that I was special counsel and chief of staff for Zoe Lofgren, who lives in Silicon Valley, and that's the district that she represents, San Jose, California. And we talked about her prior political career before she became a member of Congress. And she said, when you're a supervisor, as she was on the Board of Supervisors in San Jose, she said, when there's a flood in the street, there is no Democratic solution. There is no Republican solution. There is no liberal solution. There's no conservative solution. There's just a problem. When kids need medicine, we get them medicine. There's no ideological reason why they shouldn't, although some don't think they should get food either. If we're going to supply electric energy to a community, aren't we going to anticipate the problems with the source of the electricity and what it means to 4 million people or more? And when we have an approaching railroad strike, and the thing that would buy the interest and support of labor is to give them the funds for sick days, nothing extravagant, something that seems right and just and equitable, and we withhold it from them, isn't that brutal? Isn't that unfair? Isn't that saying you don't count as much as these economic matters do for other people, but not for you? So that's my review of things I've seen today. Unloading pumpkins gave me an opportunity to have a few of them run through my head. And maybe tomorrow I'll get out and be walking in the weather and can talk to you on our happy trails. All the best. Nice talking to you. Have a good evening. Bye.